On this episode of Mythbusters,
All right, we are ready to board.
it's all aboard for an aviation revolution.
Whoa! In an orderly fashion.
Adam and Jamie turn air travel upside down
Apparently, it saves time.
when they ask, is the standard back-to-front boarding system really the slowest? Buckle up, because it's going to get bumpy.
Turbulence! Whoa!
Then Carrie, Grant, and Tori slug it out
Don't try this at home. We're what you call professionals.
to get to the root of a dental ballistic mystery.
Here you go. Tooth bullet.
Are bio bullets deadly or dust? And will they fox a forensic expert
Off to the pathologist.
All right.
by leaving no evidence for the autopsy? Who are the Mythbusters? Adam Savage
Eating food cooked with C4.
and Jamie Hyneman.
This is gonna kill you.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Together with Tori Belleci,
We're gonna die!
Carrie Byron,
Right tool for the job.
and Grant Imahara.
Who wants some?
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. First up, Adam and Jamie are tackling the nation's vexation with aviation.
Pop quiz, Jamie. How do you board an airplane?
I walk.
No, not so specific. How do you and the other passengers get on an airplane?
We walk.
This is not a trick question. Just how do people board an airplane?
In zones?
Exactly. In zones specifically from back to front. And there's a myth going around that the standard way almost all airlines use to board their planes from back to front is in fact the slowest and least efficient way to get people onto an airplane.
Well, that sounds like something we need to investigate.
It's exactly what I was thinking.
In the U.S. in 2011, over 700 million passengers checked in, sat down, buckled up, and took off. Their number one complaint? The waiting around. But Adam and Jamie want to know if the standard method of boarding is to blame. Have the airlines got it back to front with back to front boarding? Is it really the worst way of getting up, and away?
Well, it looks like we need a plane and a couple of hundred volunteer passengers.
And we need a bunch of boarding methods.
Well, I can think of at least 3 or 4 off the top of my head.
All right. Sounds like we should run some volunteers through their paces, see which one is the most efficient.
Let's buckle down and do it.
So to test the best boarding methods, Adam and Jamie require a plane. But their reputation
You know, it's fun to see things blow up sometimes.
for misuse and abuse of aircraft has preceded them.
Cutting up a plane.
And that means they have to make their own.
We've got to build a plane.
Oh boy.
Luckily for the prospective volunteer passengers, their DIY plane won't really be leaving the ground.
We just need something that is actually as minimal as possible.
The goal is to construct a 173-seat airplane interior that matches the one most used by commercial airlines, so that they can accurately replicate a full-scale boarding scenario.
We want to be able to see it from all the way around so we can observe from outside what's going on clearly.
The key components are actual airline seats, precise aisle width, legroom, and real overhead compartments.
If we have like 173 people all putting bags into overhead bins, that's actually quite a lot of stress.
It's just the same way these shelves are built.
The chairs from
And an hour later, with their brainstorm weathered and construction problems solved,
This is going to be cool.
You bet.
it's off to a spectacular location to bring their vision to life.
Looks like an airplane to me.
I love this location. Let's get started.
Okay.
So we've come to the Mare Island Naval Base, about an hour from the Mythbusters shop. Right there's pretty good. This building I'm standing in used to be a storage facility for outfitting boats, and it's over 100 years old. But for us, today, it is our mocked-up airplane hangar.
The first part of the plan to be put into place is a base to build on.
It's gonna be a nice set.
Yep.
Once their plywood platform is given a coat of paint or two, it's ready for the all-important structural components.
Just lean them up against the wall there.
And the frame for the overhead compartments is tack welded into a structure capable of supporting the baggage for a plane load of passengers. And a well-oiled Mythbusters machine
Good? Okay.
means the metal skeletal components are raised well before the tray tables are even stowed.
It's only about 90 minutes in, and the steel frame is pretty much up. It has to support both our lighting and, most importantly, the overhead bins. And when you consider that 173 people are all going to be putting their luggage in them at the same time, it pretty much has to do what an airplane has to do, and that's a lot.
With the steel superstructure solid, up goes the first of the recycled overhead luggage bins.
There we go. Zip ties.
And with a burst of fast forward, up goes the last.
Beautiful. Let's put in the chairs.
The seating, also recycled from a real plane by Interface Aviation, is brought in and secured, replicating the layout of an average mid-sized airliner.
There we go.
First class is in.
Next, up goes the departure lounge, with a curtained-off gangway and even a fake ticket scanner.
It doesn't beep, but I can go like this. Boop. Thank you. Boop. Thank you. Boop. Thank you.
Which means Mythbust Air is ready for its maiden flight that won't leave the ground.
As you can see, everything's ready. Our departure lounge is good to go.
And our plane is nearly ready. All it needs is some passengers.
Welcome.
Open wide, because next up is a tall tale of deadly dentistry.
What's with that smile?
We're testing a myth about teeth.
Okay, go on.
All right, remember when we tested Ice Bullet and how it was the perfect assassination tool because you could never trace the bullet?
Oh yeah, it was busted, but the idea was that the bullet would melt and there'd be no evidence.
Yep, it's similar, except instead of an ice bullet, it's a tooth bullet. Now, the myth says it has enough mass for penetration and accuracy, but the best part is, once it hits its target, it breaks up into little fragments.
No, that's brilliant, because when the pathologist goes to look at it, they find the entrance wound, and inside, it's just shattered bone that could be the guy's own bone.
Yeah, but could a tooth bullet really be accurate, penetrate, and fool a pathologist?
Don't know, but that's what we're gonna test.
Cool.
It's an intriguing firearm fable with a ballistics bite. The team wants to know if you can make a viable bullet from a human tooth. Supposedly, dental projectiles are aerodynamically accurate. They have a lethal penetrating power, and they shatter on impact and can't be detected by even the foremost forensic pathologist.
So the myth doesn't actually state what kind of ammunition the teeth are made into. So I say we test various guns.
Great, and we'll put them through a series of challenges versus their regular bullet counterparts.
And ultimately, we're gonna need some human teeth.
Okay.
Oh, ooh, there's one, two.
Carrie?
Got any more in there?
Fortunately, we won't need any more of Tori's,
Kids, make sure to brush your teeth.
because Grant has a secret stash.
So this myth is all about turning teeth into bullets. Step one, acquire some teeth. These are actual human teeth that have been extracted that were given to us by a dentist. These are canines and molars. We're gonna carve these up and hopefully fit them into bullet casings.
Hi.
Now, making a tooth into a bullet, we're faced with some really unique tooth anatomy because we really want this to be as hard as it can be. Now, the enamel is the hard part, but this is just the shell. Then you start getting into the dentin and the pulp, that's where it's gonna get weaker and weaker. So we don't actually want to compromise the integrity of the tooth by grinding it down, but we also have to actually make these teeth fit into the shells. This is gonna be quite a difficult experiment.
It's clearly going to be tricky, but what's the plan?
For this experiment, we're gonna be using 3 different types of rounds. Tori's gonna be adapting the shotgun shell, Carrie's gonna work with the handgun round, and I am going to work with the rifle round.
The myth doesn't specify the gun and ammo. It simply states that a bullet made from a tooth will fool a pathologist.
Smells like the dentist.
So the team will test 3 options. Tori will re-engineer a shotgun shell with teeth instead of lead shot.
I can't wait to sink my teeth into this myth.
Grant will add a little bite to a rifle round, and Carrie will modify a handgun round with a molar.
Okay, Okay, so I'm pulling the 38 bullets out of the cartridges, replacing the powder, and then replacing the bullets with a tooth. I'm using a small silicone bead to seat it and to seal the top of the bullet.
Carrie thinks retaining as much hard enamel as possible is crucial, so she's decided not to shape her handgun bullets. The downside will be with accuracy.
I'm really skeptical that this is gonna work. Why? For one, I think we have an aerodynamics problem. I think it's gonna not get anywhere near the target. That is, if it actually survives coming out of the barrel. That being said, if it does, I think this would really hurt if it hit ya.
Meanwhile, Grant has a different strategy. He thinks shaping the teeth for maximum aerodynamic accuracy is essential.
So I'm grinding around the edge of the tooth. And this is so that it can fit inside of the jacket a little bit deeper. And then I'll seal around the edges with some epoxy, and the powder, of course, will be inside here. And when it's done, it's gonna look something like that.
Tori, on the other hand, has it slightly easier.
Now, Carrie and Grant have a hard job because they actually have to make a bullet out of a tooth. This myth is like pulling teeth. Me, I don't have to modify my teeth. Why? Because I'm gonna be using a shotgun shell. Now, this is a cross-section of a shotgun shell. What we have here is our charge. This is our plug, and this is our shot. Now, once this sets off, the pressure builds up, it pushes the plug, sending the shot towards the target. You know what time it is? It's 2:30. All I need to do is replace the shot with teeth and take my shot.
Back over with Grant,
There you go. Tooth bullet.
and he's got his rifle rounds ready to roll. He's also got a plan B. B for bone.
Okay, so what I needed was the biggest bone we could find that was readily available, and this cow femur was left over from a butcher shop. Let's see if I can get a bullet out of it.
Of course, the myth is about teeth.
Oh, we have juices!
But Grant is going with the spirit of the myth. And that's a bullet made of biological material that will disintegrate on impact. And the benefit of bone is that it can be shaped more effectively than the teeth for a more aerodynamic result.
My masterpiece is complete.
Carrie is also finished, but she's still feeling skeptical.
So I'm done with my 38 very special bullets, but the teeth don't have the same mass as the original bullets, so they're not gonna have the same destructive force. They also aren't symmetrical, so I have a feeling accuracy is gonna be a serious issue. Still, they're teeth bullets. It's cool.
It's a frustrating constant of commercial airline travel. Boarding the plane always seems to take longer than it should. But is it down to the back-to-front boarding system? Is it true that the method favored by most airlines is the least effective? To find out, Captain Savage and co-pilot Hyneman have replicated a commercial boarding scenario with a team of real flight attendants.
Here's how this is going to go down. Every single one of our Mythbust Air test passengers will be issued a ticket, just like this one, with a specific seat assignment, and they will board the plane through our gate right here.
Boop.
As they come aboard, our cabin manager, Sylvia, will check them in and send them on their way to the correct seat.
The rest of our cabin crew will be stationed just as they would be on a real airplane, assisting the passengers in stowing their luggage.
When the luggage is stowed and everybody's properly seated, the flight attendants will call time and the boarding is complete.
We'll be assessing each of our boarding techniques on two main metrics. The first one being how the boarding method felt to the passengers. So as our test subjects deplane from each test, we will ask them to vote here on how the test felt to them, whether they thought it was great, just okay, or in fact, terrible.
And the second part of the monitoring will be done by me up here with this timer, and that'll determine how long the test took.
What about people who gum up the works, you ask? I'm glad you mentioned that. In about 5% of our ticket envelopes, and consistent across all of our tests, we've included instructions for some of our test subjects to behave just like those passengers who do slow boarding down. The personality types we've identified are parents with tiny children, people who go to the bathroom during boarding and have to swim upstream to get back to their seat, people who sit in the wrong seat, and people with suit coats who meticulously fold them in the aisle before putting them on their luggage. We've literally thought of everything we could imagine.
It's a comprehensive set of test parameters. The wild cards, accurate boarding scenario, and experienced cabin crew will provide the realism. And the time and customer satisfaction scores will give each of the boarding methods a comparative and quantitative score.
So if we're going to be testing a bunch of different ways to board an airplane, we're going to need an entire airplane's worth of volunteers.
Well, as it happens, we've got some.
They don't seem that thrilled.
No, I don't blame them.
Nearly 200 volunteers with their carry-on baggage have generously given up their day to queue for science. And their first test is the control, supposedly the slowest of all systems.
This test is the one that people are most familiar with. It's called the back-to-front method. Check out this graphic. Using assigned seats, once they've loaded business class, then they load the back third, the middle third, and the front third.
Hello! How you guys doing? All right, Jamie, start. Welcome to Mythbust Air, flight 3.1415927. We are ready to begin pre-boarding. Parents with children and business class passengers may now board the airplane. Step up to the gate and hand over your ticket.
With the clock ticking, the boarding commences.
This is awesome.
And it really couldn't be better.
You guys need any help? Are you okay?
You okay? All right. Welcome aboard.
The gangway and replica plane interior ensure everything proceeds exactly as it would during a standard back-to-front boarding.
If you are seated in rows 20 through 30, you may now board the plane. Rows 20 through 30, board the plane.
Welcome.
The advantages of the replica setup soon become clear. The open-sided structure allows full access to the cameras, and we can really see how the boarding is progressing.
All right, we are now ready to board rows 10 through 19. If you are in row 10 through 19, you may now start to board the airplane.
Once the plane is almost full, familiar pre-flight patterns emerge.
Hello, 2019.
There's a backlog of passengers on the gangway. Passengers in aisle seats having to get up to allow access to the middle and window seats. And inevitably, there is plenty of carry-on luggage too large to fit in the overhead compartments.
We're gate-checking bags. That's awesome. I have to admit, I was kind of shocked by how much gate-checked luggage there was. But according to the flight attendants, it's pretty average.
There's no space.
Okay, what's your final destination?
Springfield.
Okay, I'll get that tag for
Okay,
you.
thanks.
It's not just excess baggage delaying departure. The wild cards also gum up the works in a realistic way. But eventually, everyone is seated and the plane is ready for wheels up.
Stop, Jamie.
But what's the damage?
From the time that boarding was announced to the time that the last bin was closed, for back-to-front boarding, it was 24 minutes and 29 seconds. Now, that's a fairly common method of boarding, and that'll form our baseline for the other tests.
The time is, of course, crucial for that comparison, but so is customer satisfaction.
Let's see what we got.
All right.
Each positive experience is scored +1. A terrible vote is -1. And each neutral, okay, is 0, which, for back to front, gives a final tally of +19. But the score and time don't mean anything on their own. Comparisons are required. So to find out if the Myth will soar or crash land, Captain Savage will need to log a few more bumpy flights.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has just called us to say that it's going to be a bit turbulent. Please make sure your seatbelts are securely fastened.
Carrie, Grant, and Tori are testing the Myth, Bite the Bullet. Supposedly, a bullet made from a fang fragments on impact, leaving no evidence for a forensic pathologist to sink their teeth into.
Don't try this at home. We're what you call professionals.
To assess this ballistic mystery, Carrie, Grant, and Tori have made biological bullets for a variety of guns.
You guys ready to bite the bullet?
But before they take on the medical examiner, they want to know, will their bullets even work? Will they have lethal penetration and aerodynamic accuracy?
For our accuracy tests, we're going to be at a common standoff distance. Now we're going to fire our revolver, our shotgun, and our .308 rifle. And our targets, we're going to shoot at ourselves in an alternative universe where the dentistry is questionable.
Do my teeth really look like that?
This is a .357 Magnum revolver. We're going to be firing 38 special rounds, giving us a muzzle velocity of approximately 800 feet per second. Going hot! Now the plan for our accuracy test is to fire off 3 lead bullets in a row. Oh, nice. That's a really tight group. And then fire off our tooth bullet and see how far that is from the cluster.
That grouping is the accuracy benchmark. For the handgun tooth bullet to have a chance to fool the pathologist, it first has to hit the target. Let's see how it does.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, fire.
Swing and a miss.
Man.
Carrie's decision to retain the enamel and not smooth the tooth surface has come back to bite her. The poor aerodynamics meant that from just 21 feet, it missed by quite a distance. So the handgun has fallen at the first hurdle. But what's next?
What I have here is a 12-gauge pump shotgun. It fires rounds at 1,200 feet per second. Going hot! Now, unlike the pistol or the rifle, it's not a pinpoint accurate weapon, it hits an area. So, in order for us to call our teeth shot accurate, it has to hit the same area as our buckshot. Look at that, shot him in the nostril.
That's a good group. That's about a 10-inch group right there.
That's the benchmark. Let's see what the teeth-filled shell can do.
All right, this is 12-gauge teeth shot, accuracy test, going hot. All right, here we go. Eyes and ears, and teeth. 3, 2, 1. Let's see how close they got to the buckshot.
Not bad, not bad.
You know what? I think we have to give it to the teeth because they hit in the same area as the buckshot.
Yeah, that's a really tight group. That's great.
That's a success. In a weapon designed to fire its shot over a short distance, the teeth more or less match the real thing. And that means, unlike the handgun, the shotgun has qualified for the next stage. But before that, it's Grant and the big gun.
Next up, the rifle accuracy test. We're going to be firing a .308 round out of this rifle at a standard distance of 25 yards. Then we're going to load up the tooth bullet and see how close we can come to that target. Tooth bullet in the rifle in 3, 2, 1.
With over 10 times the power of the handgun, the extra powder in the round destroyed the tooth bullet before it even left the rifle's barrel, which is the scenario Grant feared when he came up with his plan B.
See this? This is my secret weapon.
His bullet made of bone.
Safety's off, we're hot.
Looks like Grant's been boning up.
All right, here we go. Bone bullet in the rifle.
And what do you know? It's slightly off the original, but it's in the ballpark.
We hit it.
Hey, that's actually not bad for this range.
You know what? This is actually pretty promising for the Myth. Let's see how the bone bullet does on the penetration test.
Absolutely. Bone bullet.
So far, this Myth is looking pretty good. Fire. Now, we didn't have much accuracy with the pistol and the tooth bullet. But with the shotgun and the teeth shot and the bone bullet with the rifle, we had very good accuracy. So we can say that this is a viable ammunition, but it's time to see how well they penetrate once they hit their target.
So far, Carrie, Grant, and Tori have tested the accuracy of their bio bullets. The handgun and rifle fags failed at the first hurdle.
Swing and a miss. Man.
But the shotgun shell and bone bullet were a success.
Not bad, not bad.
The next question to be faced is, will they penetrate with a lethal impact?
So we are testing the penetration power of teeth ammunition versus lead ammunition. And guess what we're gonna use to test that? Ballistics gel, our old friend. I bet you didn't see that one coming. Now, the reason why we're using it is because it has the same density and viscosity as human muscle tissue. And because the gel is so consistent, we'll be able to see how deep the teeth go in and the bullet, and we'll be able to compare the two results.
With the ballistics gel refrigerated and ready to roll, it's back down to the gun range. And to test the bio bullets for a lethal penetration, the guys will once again compare them to the real thing.
For this test, we're taking accuracy out of the equation. We're gonna fire at close range into the gelatin. Now, we know that the actual bullets are going to do more damage. Physics tells us they have more mass, they have more power. But the question is, can these crazy bullets actually do enough damage to make them a viable round?
The answer to that question will come if the bone bullet and teeth-filled shotgun shell have enough energy to penetrate the ballistics gel deeper than 4 inches. That's the benchmark experts deem to be a lethal hit, and the benchmark for success in this test.
Woo!
First up is the 12-gauge shotgun with a standard shell.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. It looked like it passed right through it. I saw it hit the back of the bird.
It jumped.
With a muzzle velocity of 1,800 feet per second, the spray of buckshot sure packs a penetrative punch.
Exit, 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 exit. They all came all the way through.
I love the shotgun. Let's see what the teeth can do.
All right.
I'm really looking forward to the teeth shot. I have a lot of confidence in this one. I feel like just putting in the teeth shot, firing that shotgun is going to be destructive.
The question is, will they match the real thing or at least punch a lethal 4-inch hole?
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
A close inspection reveals that not only did it not match the real round and penetrate clean through, but it also failed to beat the 4-inch benchmark.
1.5 inches.
All right, so even at close range, this is not an effective assassination round.
Yeah, I mean, the regular buckshot passed all the way through the ballistic shell. This only went in a couple inches.
The team decides that while it may not be lethal, it would certainly cause severe injury. And that's good enough to take it on to the next round. Just barely.
Okay, so the shotgun didn't give us that 4-inch lethal penetration that we were looking for. But after looking at the high speed, we're gonna give it the benefit of the doubt because it did give us 6 to 7 hits that penetrated 2 inches. Now, combining that trauma, the victim could potentially be sent to the pathologist's slab.
So the shotgun squeaked past the penetration test by the skin of its teeth. And it's time to up the ante. The massive muzzle velocity of 2,800 feet per second might pack the punch required.
So just like the shotgun, we're gonna be firing the rifle from the minimum possible range. And for this weapon, that's 10 feet. Any closer and the pressure wave would actually disturb the ballistics gel.
And it's no surprise when the patrol round blasts clean through the gel target.
Well, then I think I might have done a backflip.
Remember, Grant's bone bullet doesn't have to match that devastating level of destruction because the projectile just has to penetrate to 4 inches to be deemed lethal.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's see how far it went in. Oh no, it wasn't that far.
That is not a lethal shot at all.
At just 2 inches, it's another non-lethal shot. But Tori isn't surprised because even their biggest bio-bullet has a weight problem.
So we just took the shot and it did not go that far into the ballistics gel. But that's not a big surprise because as we know, kinetic energy is 1/2 times mass times velocity squared. Now, since we don't have the mass or the velocity, we don't have the energy for that tooth to penetrate that deep.
But all is not lost because back at the shop, the guys are beefing up their bone bullet. The science says that bigger is better. So with a supersized bone slug, will they finally get the penetration this myth needs?
Now, I made the bone bullet much larger. This is gonna give us more mass for more penetration power. Hopefully, this will give us a lethal shot.
And outside in the bulletproof bunker, the proof will be in a fresh ballistics gel pudding.
In 3, 2, 1, fire.
In real time, there seems to be more gel jiggling. But there's only one measure that counts.
Hey, look at that! We have bone fragments 6 inches deep.
Yep, the extra mass made all the difference.
Dude, this is a success.
All right, next step we gotta do is test it on our human analog.
All right.
So, both the shotgun and now the rifle have passed the accuracy and penetration tests. And that means, next up, can the team get away with murder? Hassle-free air travel may be high in the sky.
Welcome to Mythbust Air, flight 3.1415927.
But Adam and Jamie are determined to find out if the standard back-to-front boarding system
Stop, Jamie.
is the slowest and most unsatisfactory option available.
For this test, we've set everything up exactly like it would be on a real airplane, from the dimensions of the plane to using real seats. And given the fact that stowing luggage and hand luggage is a very time-consuming part of that process, we're using genuine overhead bins.
We strive for accuracy in all of our tests. That's why in setting this up, I'm ready to come out now.
Adam and Jamie already have a back-to-front baseline, but there's a whole barrage of boarding baloney still to come. And next up,
Families with small children in business class may board the plane now.
is the perfect method to contrast with the control.
Test number 2.
And that's no system at all.
Next on the menu is a semi-random boarding method in which people have assigned seats, but we are only boarding in 2 groups. That is business class and everybody else. I have to say, I'm kind of curious about how this one's going to turn out. We are going to board all rows, all seats. All rows, all seats may now board the plane. Over there.
Whoa, your seat!
Each passenger has an assigned seat, and there are the usual wild cards like jacket folders. But other than that, it's simply first come, first boarded.
We wanted to make sure when we set this test up that people would be likely to behave in the way that they would in the airport.
Can we get some order here? Yeah, can you just line up, please? Just one line, please.
And for the random test, it seems to be the case. As soon as I called all seats, all rows, everyone ran to the front of the counter to board the plane.
One line, thank you.
That is exactly the kind of behavior I would expect to see in an airport. It's awesome that we got it experimented.
Aside from the rush to board first, there don't seem to be any issues.
Hi, you my last passenger?
I guess so.
And the passengers found their assigned seats in a surprisingly short amount of time.
So this test was random once first class and parents with small children had boarded, and it came in at 17 minutes, which is pretty quick.
You guys may now deplane.
That's an astonishing 8 minutes faster than the control. But remember, time isn't the only factor. Each passenger gets to vote on the overall experience.
On the last test, they were almost all okay. In this test, they're either loving them or hating them because we're either getting great or terrible.
The random boarding clearly polarized opinion. But despite the significantly faster time, when the votes are tallied, it turns out it was less popular than the control.
This is a stunning result. Random boarding with allocated seats was far quicker and yet a much less positive experience for the passengers. This tells me that there is definitely something to this myth. If random is so much quicker, then back to front is clearly flawed in terms of speed and efficiency. But whether there's a better method that yields a more positive passenger result, I think requires more testing. Shall we?
Next up is what we call the Wilma technique. It stands for windows, middle, and aisle. Once you've boarded business class, then you load those with window seats, then the middle seats, and then the aisle. Seems pretty logical to me.
It's a standard, rarely used technique with a cute but not quite accurate acronym. And it's down to Adam to explain the unfamiliar procedure.
Okay, we are now going to board people seated at window seats. If your ticket has a letter A or a letter F on it, you may board all rows with letters A or F. I was a little nervous about how that was going to work out, but it seems like everyone's getting it pretty clearly.
Yep, as it turns out, with some clear instructions, it's quite simple.
We are now going to board middle seats. If your seat number has a letter B or E attached to it, you may now board the plane.
One of the problems with back-to-front boarding is aisle seat passengers getting up to allow window seat passengers to get to their seats, causing congestion in the aisle. But this method is specifically designed to avoid that. And the result is an even quicker time.
What was the time on that one, Jamie?
14 minutes, 55 seconds.
Nice.
The faster, smoother system is also reflected in the satisfaction score, a fulfilling 102. And that has Jamie convinced of the result.
Wilma is significantly faster and 5 times better in terms of customer satisfaction than the control. For me, that means the myth is confirmed right here. The method in use by the vast majority of airlines is simply not the best available. What we have to determine now is what is exactly the best method.
Well, the straight windows middle aisle or Wilma boarding worked pretty fast, but there's apparently a Wilma method that's even more sophisticated. It breaks it out into windows middle aisle in separate blocks, and it is going to tax all my faculties of being a clear announcer of who gets seated when. They're going to be seated in 10 separate blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Makes me tired just looking at it. All right, Jamie, you can start the timer.
Once again, Adam ushers on business class and families, and then it gets complicated.
The first group to board, rows 22 through 30, but only the window seats. Seats A or F may now board the plane.
Despite the complexity, Adam rises to the occasion.
I feel that this loudspeaker makes me virile and more powerful.
And it all goes swimmingly.
This is fascinating. Here's what I really hope for this story, is that we actually come up with a result that gets utilized by airlines to cut down on the amount of time it takes to fly. Wouldn't that be great?
And with another fast time under their seatbelts,
that's time.
This myth is really taking off.
I fly a heck of a lot, and I'm pretty sure that every plane I've ever gotten on has boarded the passengers in the back-to-front zone system. And we're not done testing, but we've already determined that the back-to-front zone system is pretty terrible compared to almost everything else. So what do you think, Jamie? You think the airlines are actually going to change their boarding methods based on what we determine here?
I think it's a little premature. We've got a long way to go.
Yes, we do. Let's get some more testing.
So far for our Bite the Bullet myth, we have tested accuracy and penetration. Now, it's time to test deception. Now, the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna fire our bone and our teeth bullets into a human analog, basically a pig. Then what we're gonna do is have a forensic pathologist take a look at the evidence and see if he can detect the lethal projectile. Now, unfortunately, butchers are not allowed to give us pigs with their innards intact, so we are gonna have to fill up the chest cavity with our own organs.
You got a lot of heart, Carrie.
Oh, jeez.
So basically, Carrie and I are gonna be playing doctor. Frankenstein, that is. All right, we're done. See, it wasn't that bad.
No, that was pretty bad.
Yep, but unfortunately for Carrie, they have to do it all over again because there are 2 types of ammunition to test, so 2 targets are required. Carrie managed to hang on to her lunch,
It's juicing.
which means it's back down to the gun range
Today's show is sponsored by the letter A.
for a little shoot and tell.
All right, who ordered the human analog?
All right, so our human analog's in place, and we're going to shoot at close range directly into the sternum with our top 2 ammunition, which is the teeth shot and the bone bullet. Now, the idea here is that when a pathologist is examining the victim, there'll just be shattered bone everywhere, and there won't be direct traceable evidence like you might see with a lead bullet.
All right, we're going hot.
And first up versus human analog number 1 is the supersized bone bullet.
All right, let's find out once and for all if there's any truth to this myth.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Cool. Ah, we got a hit and we got penetration.
Off to the pathologist.
All right.
So the bone bullet did exactly what we wanted it to. We've got great penetration, high accuracy. This black dot right here is where I was aiming, and I can see inside that there are bone fragments. So it's looking really good for the myth right now, but we won't know for sure until we get to the doctor. And until then, it's time to take him down and put him on ice.
So while target number 1 is chilling out, awaiting an examination by our medical examiner, cue target 2 and a shotgun shell with bite.
So the shotgun's still in the running. This may be our last chance for an actual teeth bullet. Now, the idea is that maybe it won't penetrate the way the bone does, but it'll spray and you might bleed out. It still might be viable ammunition. It penetrates enough, it's got good aim, and it destroys on impact.
All right, teeth shot, we're hot.
So if the teeth bullet is gonna be plausible, it's gonna be right here. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, that looks great. I am shocked by this result, especially after we shot into the ballistics gel. I mean, we were only getting about 2 inches of penetration, which didn't seem like a lethal shot. But after we fired into our human analog, I mean, this looks like a lethal shot. It punched through the skin, into the organs, and the best part is it actually went through the rib cage. Now the big test is, will the pathologist be able to identify what did this damage? Right now, this myth is looking very good.
Carrie, Grant, and Tori are playing with guns and ammo.
Yeah!
They've been trying to find out if bio-bullets made of teeth and bone would be accurate, lethal, and fool a forensic scientist.
Take it to the pathologist.
All right.
Cue expert medical examiner Dr. Melanik and her oscillating saw. Her challenge? Well, the team has brought home the bacon in body bags. And without knowing the cause of the injuries, she has to autopsy the two victims. First up, the bone bullet.
So I'm just looking to see if there are any signs of injury to the animal. And what I see is that a wound over here, but it looks like a sharp force injury, like from a knife. It doesn't look like from a gunshot wound.
This is looking really good for the myth. She thinks it's a stab wound.
For the myth to be confirmed, traceable evidence will elude the doc, and she won't be able to work out what punched a hole in Porky here.
So I'm just reflecting this backwards to see where this injury is going and how deep it's going.
The doc follows the injury through the skin and muscle in the chest wall, getting a picture of the force and trajectory of the trauma that caused it.
Okay, penetrated 4 inches.
What the heck is that?
This is not normal for a heart.
Damaged the heart, damaged the liver, broke 3 ribs. Definitely a lethal blow.
The bone bullet clearly fulfilled the lethal requirement, but will it fool the pathologist?
If you hold the evidence, which I've recovered from the injured organs, side by side next to the cut rib, you'll notice that they're different in appearance. It doesn't appear to be like either like the bone, which has a marrow, or like the cartilage that it went through.
So you're saying whatever that is not part of this pig?
It's not part of this pig. This is a foreign object that was introduced into this pig.
She's good.
She's very good.
She is
She's
good.
really good.
Nothing getting by you.
With some patience, skill, and experience, Dr. Melanik recovers all of the foreign objects from the injury, and soon has the answer to this porcine puzzle.
All right, so doctor, after all of this, what are your findings?
Inside the body, I saw damage to the organs that is consistent with gunshot injury, and then I found the pieces that we put together in the shape of a bullet.
All right, so our technique of using a bone bullet to disguise the cause of death is not going to fool you.
No.
All right, well, we're not finished. We got one more technique to see if we can fool you.
Okay.
Now, our forensic pathologist is examining for the teeth shot. On the one hand, it could be more crushed up, less evidence. But on the other, it could be more foreign.
All right, so doctor, just on first glance, what do you think happened here?
Well, I see an entrance wound with scalloped edges, like a cookie cutter or flower. And then I see some satellite wounds, which have particulate material that look like, not like shot, but like tooth or bone. I think that this is most consistent with a shotgun wound.
Once again, the doc has it all worked out. First, that it's a wound from a shotgun. Second, that the pellets were not BBs, but teeth. And finally, even if the wound had been near the mouth, just like the bone fragments, the doc would easily have detected the foreign material.
You can't fool the forensic pathologist. This one's busted.
Definitely busted.
Totally busted. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you.
Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't. That was disgusting.
Now, this myth is all about creating a lethal projectile without leaving enough evidence to tie you back to the crime. As far as our bone bullet goes, it had excellent accuracy, great penetration, and even shattered inside of the pig. But unfortunately, there were enough fragments left that the forensic pathologist could glue the entire thing back together and reveal the rifling marks along the length of the bullet, which is enough to tie you back to the weapon.
Now, with the teeth shot, she looked at it and instantly realized it was a shotgun wound. Nice work, Dr. Judy.
I got a molar.
Look at that, relentless.
It's a definitive result. The slugs may have been moderately accurate and barely lethal.
Yeah, that's a really tight group.
But the crucial criterion was, could they fool the pathologist? And on that, they failed, meaning this myth is busted. With the help of an excited plane load of volunteers,
oh, we had a little turbulence. Woo!
Adam and Jamie are asking if airlines around the world have got it wrong. So far, the answer is yes. The usual method of boarding does appear to be the slowest and one of the least popular. And next up is an experiment in anarchy. After business class, it's every passenger for themselves.
Now, all the rest of you, there are no assigned seats and no assigned rows. So when I say, which is now, you can all board the airplane. Whoa! In an orderly fashion. Wow.
In the earlier random test, there were assigned seats, but this is just a free-for-all.
This is interesting. There's no assigned seating, no order at all, and so what they're doing is actually the opposite of the back to front. They're filling up the front first and then going backwards, which doesn't seem like it would be the most efficient way of doing it because they're blocking the aisle right in the beginning of the plane.
But somewhat counterintuitively, the lack of seat assignments leads to the fastest time so far.
The only reason for that I can think of is that nobody's looking for any specific seat. They're just taking the first one they come across. Apparently, it saves time.
It saves on time, but according to a customer survey score of -5, not on stress.
This is fascinating. I've just finished scoring the random boarding method, and they hated this method. Overwhelmingly, they voted it as terrible. And I think this is an interesting window into human psychology. I think humans like structure. We want to know that there's a structure, even if it takes us longer. It appeals to our sense of justice that things are happening for a reason. That's fascinating.
Which leaves the results looking like this. Despite surveys indicating that waiting and queuing is the single biggest complaint for frequent flyers, it seems a sense of order and structure is just as important. Which leaves one final attempt by the team to find the perfect boarding solution. One that might provide speed, structure, and satisfaction.
Next up is a method called the reverse pyramid. It's pretty complex. In fact, the passengers are told merely to board by zones, which are pre-sorted on their tickets. The best way to explain it to you guys is with the editor's help. Editors, if you'd put up a graphic, please, and show the zones as they board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's pretty complicated. It's supposed to be pretty fast. We're going to find out. We're ready to begin boarding Mythbusters Air Flight 3.1415927 with service to Myths Unknown.
It appears complicated, but with zones and seat numbers printed on the tickets, it's actually incredibly simple.
If you have Group 2 on your ticket, you may board the airplane.
This one appears to be working kind of like the Wilma techniques where it's filling on the outside and then gradually works its way towards the middle.
Group 3 may now board the airplane.
But the pyramid strategy ends up doing that in blocks, which may or may not help it.
And when the timer stops at 15:10, it's back to the shop on an imaginary flight to make their final assessment.
Buckle in.
Okay.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1, shoot.
So where do we stand?
Well, the myth was that the most common technique that airlines use for boarding a plane, that is from back to front, also happened to be the slowest and least efficient method of putting people onto an airplane. And based on our testing, I have to say it's myth confirmed.
Indeed. But you know what's interesting is that the fastest technique we tried was also the least popular.
That might be why most airlines don't use it.
Well, the good news is that the 3 most popular techniques we tried are significantly faster than the back-to-front technique. So those are the ones we should be using.
Absolutely. You hear that, airlines?